Welcome to Let's Talk About It with Jamie Jones-Irvin. Today's episode is about parenting the scholar athlete. We're going to look at how that is shaped from a lot of lenses, from their identity and worth, the family dynamics and sacrifice, the scholarship journey, the mental and emotional health. And then, as always, we're going to have a very reflective close to help you along the journey if you're in it, and to help you along the journey if you'll be starting soon. So we have the Donaldsons here, and you have two daughters, Dance and Cheer?
Dance and Cheer for Gabby.
Yep. Dance and Cheer. Okay. And then we have Bev. Bev, you have one son, basketball.
Yes.
Okay. And then Veronica, I know you have multiple children, but one who's actively engaged in sports right now. Baseball. Thank you. I promise I could see baseball and, perimenopause, I couldn't say it. I was like, it's a stick. It's a stick.
It could have been lacrosse.
Yeah, you see what I'm saying? And I knew that. I was like, well, we have two children, of course, but with the one who we're discussing is a basketball player. Let's get with it. So when you hear the term scholar athlete, tell me what comes to mind.
Pressure. Stress. It's almost like the weight of the world is on your shoulders because you're carrying what your child carries. And you have to be able to coach them to not carry that stress.
Oh, that's good. How does that show up in your home?
Well, my son will be quiet. He will be down on himself. He doesn't think that he's good enough. Everybody's outbeating him. The small things that he does do, he doesn't take acknowledgement that that's an achievement. Add school onto it, right? I can't get my homework done, or there's too much homework, or when he's in AP classes. So there is a lot of work that needs to be done, and he wants to get good grades. So even if he gets a B, he'll get down on himself because he feels like he's doing too much basketball and not enough school. So you have to have a happy medium. And as a parent, it's hard to see that, right? Because we have a lot of stress on our end, right? And we don't want our kids to see that. But how do you carry what your child has to make it so that they don't feel overwhelmed, they don't feel defeated, and they feel like they matter in the atmosphere that they're in?
I think pressure was really, and I think it resonated with me because we found that with Gabby, that pressure manifested for her in severe panic attacks out of the blue. And only in the past, 2 to 3 years, because she put so much pressure on herself to win, to be first, to be perfect. Remember, for a while, she was like, I have to be perfect. And we were like, why are you putting this pressure on yourself? You don't have to do that. And so, like, being a parent of a scholar athlete is exciting, right? But they carry so much weight. And when do you say this is enough? Which is what we struggled with.
And when you say when is enough, are we talking about so and Veronica, we're coming to you too. This is not, when you say this is enough, are we talking about is this solely school athletics or external to school? Is it this is enough that we want to like pare that back and only do school? What is the this in the this?
Yeah, for context. Yeah, absolutely. So this is for dance. So for dance, you do group dances and you do solos. So the anxiety wasn't manifesting in the groups. It was manifesting in the solos. So we were like, maybe we don't do this. Like, because all of this is optional, right? We don't have to do this.
Yeah.
So if you can't manage the anxiety on your own or with these tools that we've given you, we're stopping this.
Okay.
And it's hard because it's something that they love.
Yeah, I agree.
I agree about the optional, like that's language that we use. But like we tell him, if you never touch another ball, we're still going to Martha's Vineyard.
Right.
And we're still going to eat steak. We are, you are not getting us out the ghetto, which is a wonderful thing if that is what but it's interesting the amount of pressure that our athlete puts on himself. There are times that, especially coming back from injuries, et cetera, and this was not the season he expected it to be. And at one point he was bawling and saying, I feel like I failed you all. And where did you get that? I mean, you know what I'm saying?
I think they hear us in conversation saying, we're traveling here. We're spending money at the hotel here. So I think they feel
a weight.
Mm-hmm.
Although, we're doing it out of love. We're doing it. We're volunteering to do it too.
That's right.
But I think they hear that and they want to make sure that essentially we're getting our money's worth. So when they're injured, if they don't place as high, if they don't jump as high, if someone's getting more points than them, they feel like they're quantifying it by saying, I didn't do enough to go here to validate this money.
So you're saying we're the pressure?
We can be the
You're
pressure.
the pressure. Mike's the pressure.
See, this is why I want the dads in the space, because I don't think
because mom in our relationship is a little more vocal than dad. Mom may come directly out and say, hell, why are we flying or driving to North Carolina to see you perform like this?
Mm-hmm.
That's when I am invited to be momager. No, see, like you got to do context, because what I have, what Caleb and I have, I ask for permission to speak.
Mm-hmm.
Right? After certain games, the question is, what do you need? And he'll say to not talk. Okay. So I don't talk, y'all.
Right.
Until I'm
later or
until I'm welcomed in.
Okay.
Yeah, he'll open up.
And then once I'm welcomed in, I ask, who are you talking to? Am I mom? Am I momager? Who am I?
Mm-hmm.
And so when he gives me my role, I look for my script, right? And I read my lines. I will say things like, there's no reason for us to travel if you're going to play like this, but not because of a poor performance. It will have more to do with, because you're not getting playing time, you don't get to sulk on the bench.
Right. And so for us, it's effort, right? If you're not going to go out there and do all the things you're supposed to do, I can stay at home.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. And Veronica, you've been kind of quiet. I know your athlete is coming back from an injury as well. Oh gosh, I know yours too, Bev.
Yeah.
Yeah. Veronica?
Yeah, I would say I think pressure, my athlete internalizes a lot of things. So he's a young man of few words. So he doesn't really share how he feels. We oftentimes have to pull it out of him, keep probing. I am one where I continue to just, remind him constantly, you want to dress for the job you want, not the job you have right now. So if ultimately you're trying to play D1 ball or even go higher, what are you doing to position yourself so that you are performing now like in D1? I think sometimes those words he accepts, and then other times it's like, okay, mom, it's enough, right? Because I'm always sending, and my husband too, but he's pulled back a lot. I'm oftentimes sending motivational videos or just different things. And he was like, if you send me one more Instagram video of this, and the other, so I'm trying to be less just piling on and listen and letting him, because we always tell him we can't want it more than you.
That's right.
You have to want it for yourself. And if that is your goal, if that is your desire, then you're going to work for it. So I do sometimes apply the pressure, but I often don't know how that's landing with him because he's very reserved and not as vocal.
So let me ask you this question. Have you asked him, how is this landing with you? Have you asked him, what do you need from me? How can I show up for you?
I have. And, last summer, after he was recovering from his injury and getting back at it, he shared things with us around the pressure because he used to be a 2-sport, 3-sport athlete.
Yeah.
And on his own, he decided to focus on one sport this past year. Not us pushing him to one sport. It was his decision. So I think it's for him, he just wants me to support, but not always constantly piling on.
Yeah. I get that. That's good. And it's one of the things one of the questions that I did want to look at was, how do we help our children understand that they are more than the GPA and their jersey number? And I think we've kind of honed in some on that because our son too, AP honors classes, and freshman year when he took honest geometry. I was like, baby, D's get degrees. You just gonna have to
Listen,
okay.
that class is no joke.
Yeah.
Maybe Miss King, if you watch this here podcast, okay. But no, it was we had to give him for real permission, hear me, to fail by his standards. Right?
Yep.
Because it's real talk.
Yes, it is.
He had never gotten a C on a report card.
Yep.
Right? I don't remember many B's, but
Yep.
then you get to high school and you're taking honors geometry and he got a D that quarter because he went to Mrs. King. And this is when I was teaching him to advocate for himself. I said, you go in there and you talk to her. And he said, I am not accustomed to not doing well. And she said to him, if you continue to turn your work in and continue trying, my promise to you is you will not fail. So I didn't say he earned a D. I said he got a D. Right?
Yeah.
But that was hard. Yeah, we had a few tutors, and there was a program. Again, I'm gonna say the name of it. It's Varsity Tutors, and you can like dial in, and you know what I'm saying. And so we use Varsity Tutors, and it's 24 hours when you just log on, and a tutor will come on. But dude wouldn't use the tutor because of pride.
Yep.
And you can't do that in math, y'all. You
gotta ask questions
early on.
Right.
So, but helping them. So how do you say that there? How do you help your children understand that they're more than the GPA and their jersey number?
I mean, for me as a father, I had to back away a little bit because I've always pushed the educational piece of it, right? I believe both the boys should be straight A students, not because of dad, but because I married a very intelligent woman. So I know her capabilities. And for me, it's really taking a step back, asking what mom would ask. Did you try your best? If they tell me they tried their best and a D is what you got, I can't beat them up for that.
Yeah.
But most of the time, they both have said, no, I didn't do my best. Okay, then try harder. Because he spun it and gave me a similar scenario some years ago, maybe about 2.5 years ago. I was making a decision on whether or not I wanted to leave the current company I'm with and go.
That's another podcast.
To the previous company. What he told me is, Dad, I know that you were this expert in at the previous pharmaceutical company. He said, what is it about this company that you don't understand? Is it because you're not a scientist and you don't have a scientist background? I said, yeah, son, it's a little bit uncomfortable. You know what he told me?
No.
Study harder. Why don't you study harder? I mean, it's not your expertise, but there's information out there and you can study harder to get that craft. And I'm like, okay, this kid is listening to me. He told me something I would tell him.
No, actually, what Veronica's thinking right now is this kid is listening to his mother because that's Veronica's whole face was like, that's Jamie.
You know they were born on the same day.
I'm gonna need y'all not to sell me out. So this is good. This is good. So it's
just backing away and just honing in on certain things and not beating him down. Recognizing, he's in a certain space and like mom said, allowing him to process it because I grew up and you didn't get a chance to talk. So we allow our kids now to talk, express themselves. And I had to learn to do that, to really, really listen to him and not just jump down his throat, yelling and screaming. You just scored 50 points tonight, da-da-da-da-da. So
I think, too, it's worth acknowledging that for the families, all four of our families, that all of our athletes have active and engaged fathers. Now, the reason I'm calling that out, it is worth knowing that Beverly saying, son, did you try your best, lands differently than when dad says, did you try your best? It's something about the bass in that voice. And I will say, I tell my family, I've said this with, our eldest will be 27 soon. For 27 years, I've said, I have placenta rights. So there are things There are things I can say that land with him differently that Mark can say it and it can annihilate it. And I wonder, because we're talking boy girl, do you all see that dynamic? And I know, Veronica, you have a daughter too, but do you all, those with daughters, do you see that dynamic being the flip with daughters?
Yeah, I do. There are things that if I say it in a certain way, my daughter has taken offense and like, can't believe, Mom, you would say that. So it's just, I do think it's a different relationship. And then with my boys, both of them being athletes, sometimes as Mom, you don't know what you're talking about. Even though I played sports in high school, I didn't play in college, but I played sports. I was an athlete.
Yeah.
But it's still like, Mom, you don't know what you're talking about.
But do they respond differently to Kevin? So like if you say it and she's like, I can't believe you say that, or the affect is that. But if Kevin says the same thing, does she respond that same way?
No, and neither do the boys. Yeah, I mean, I do think it's a difference. Sometimes, like, Kayla was a dancer, and that's how we know the Donaldsons initially. Kayla used to dance at the same school as Gabby. But sometimes, early on, we didn't acknowledge that dance was a sport, right? It was a dance type of thing. Right. And our daughter would say like that's sexist, and yes, it is a sport. And, so there's different things that she would get on Dad about because of how he said it, right? And that it wasn't being in a feminine way. And then with the boys, sometimes Kevin's like, sometimes I think they're scared of me. And I'm like, they're not. It's just how you present certain things, right? That they take them to heart or take it as, tough love, when sometimes it is, but at the same time, it's truly just pure love and wanting you to be the best that you can be and live, to a standard of excellence.
Good, yeah. I think Mark sounds like he's barking a lot. Like I don't even know if because we will say, can you hear you? You know what I'm saying? And that's something I remember saying to my dad. My daddy talked hard, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, I always felt like he was yelling, right? And I will never forget, I was a teenager, and I was like, I can't hear you when you yell. And he said, well, then I'll get louder. I'm like, well, that's not quite what I mean. I don't know that that's what, what I'm saying? Yeah. But dads have that. What about you, Bev? Do you experience things like that?
Yep. And I get told I don't know what I'm talking about. I mean, there's certain things that Caden will come and tell me compared to what he'll tell his dad. And then if I overhear it and then I'm like, oh, what's going on? Oh, you don't know nothing about this. You don't know. You wouldn't know. I'm like, okay. But if it's school related, I'm the one that's always.
Oh, yeah. Well, let me ask this. So then, have there been times where that dynamic has directly or indirectly caused tension here?
Yep. I mean, to be honest, like, it doesn't make you feel good knowing that your child doesn't think that you can help them in the situation that they have, or you won't understand what they're going through.
Like, I know for us, the tension has shown up again where sometimes I squeeze Mark's wrist, you know what I'm saying? Just kind of like it's a pulse check, it like at games. Oh my gosh, in the bleachers. Y'all, like, oh, Father. But you have gotten you're so wonderful.
I'm better.
Get your Jolly Ranchers.
Jolly Ranchers, yes. Okay, so one of the tactics I use is I have a bag of Jolly Ranchers. And so when people get extremely animated around me, I start offering candy. I'm like, would you like a Jolly Rancher? Because it's harder to say, you're stupid to the ref if you have like a watermelon Jolly Rancher in your mouth.
Wait, you never offered me any Jolly Ranchers.
You don't sit down there by me. I would give you one. But you're just happy.
I'm going to start sitting by you.
Yes. And so, I normally have to replace the bags often because, but it has caused, I'm not going to say what it has caused. We have allowed it to land here and take up space that, look, we got other stuff.
It didn't need it. Yeah, it didn't belong. Yeah.
Right. Donaldson, you say you've not had that.
I don't think we've had any
fight ever in your marriage. We know.
No. We've had those though. But no, I don't think we had any just due to the kids. I think I will say, you know, going into it, I don't have sons. I would say I have a daughter. I did kind of make a commitment to myself that when I did have a daughter, like whatever she was going to do, I was going to do it fully. Like I was going to fully engage in it. If it was, you know, lacrosse, volleyball, dance, whatever, I was going to be an engaged father, although I'd rather they play football, basketball, and baseball.
Right.
So I was like, you know what? I'm going to figure this out. I'm going to figure out what first position means. I'm going to figure out what a releve is. And, you know, we're going to talk about it. And I'm going to be just as engaged because I didn't want to miss out on that conversation. Like I didn't want to miss out on that piece of their life. So as far as like the conflict, no, I think sometimes like with Deshaun and Gabby, like they have sometimes like conversations where Deshaun sees things and Gabby sees things differently because she's on the field, if you want to call it that, where I can maybe have like the same conversation and it comes across a little bit more calm just because I already have the playbook though, because I can see the conflict. So so for me, it's like, you know what? Let me be the favorite parent real quick and let me just slide in with this answer because I can see that there's no point in doing this. So let me do the opposite of this. And then I'll become the favorite parent right there on the spot. So I love it personally. So,
it is in conflict. So there's the conflict, right? But Mike, I'm with you. I am so with you because so Caleb would come in and Bev, I want you to finish your thought. Caleb would come in and be like, why is dad acting that way? And I'm like, I don't know, baby. I told him to calm down. I sell him out regularly.
Play it off.
I'm like, I don't even know, baby, but it's gonna be all right, you know.
She'll want Gabby to practice on something, right? Because we know that practice doesn't start when you get to practice. You practice when you're not at practice, right? So it's like, hey, I want you to work on this. And she's going to me, you know, Gabby's not working on this. You know, can you make sure you go out there and tell her? Because I don't want to be the bad guy. Cool, buddy. You know, hey, Gabby, how you doing? Hey, when you get an opportunity, can I see a couple turns? All right, cool, man. I appreciate it. It's just a different way to approach it, but I get credit for it too.
Yeah, yep, no conflict there. So, Bev, what were you going to bring to the space?
Caden did a course with Trey Morning. He was an NBA player. He did it for 6 months. And one thing that we've taken away from that is journaling. If Caden is in a situation, right, and he feels he can't talk to me, he feels he can't talk to his dad, or he has to release whatever is on his shoulders before a game or while he's in class, he's to journal his emotions. You release it onto a piece of paper so you don't carry it with you.
Yeah.
And that has helped tremendously.
That's good.
So even if he can't talk to me about it, right? If he feels I don't know, he has that outlet that he uses.
Yeah. Do you share the journals back and forth, or is it only for him?
That's a good question.
It's only for him.
Ryan, one of Caleb's early strength trainers, introduced journaling to him, which is interesting because I'm a writer. I was an English major. I've introduced journaling to my whole family, but this stranger comes in, you know, who has big biceps, and he's like, Mom, I need a journal. Okay. You know, let me pull out one of the 12 I bought you through the years. So, and so we say sometimes, I'm like, go in there, you know, and journal it. And I'm glad that you brought that in because all four of us are families of faith in some capacity, in some degree. How does that show up in this space for your scholar athlete? And it's interesting because we're leaning a lot on the athlete part, right? I feel like for all of our kids, if we were to take the balls, the ballet shoe, we took that component out, scholar wise, we wouldn't be having these discussions, right? You know, but it's throwing in that athlete part. So how does faith show up?
I would say for us, we try to not let the sports interrupt our faith, because oftentimes with baseball and with training, a lot of stuff happens on Sundays. So thankfully we can watch virtually. Caden does have a devotional that we highly encourage, but I don't know how much he's taking in. Remind him of praying. We used to take him to school all the time, but now that he's 15, 16, he rides to school with some of his friends. But we used to always pray over him every morning going to school and asked him, you know, give us something that you know that's troubling you, that you really want to ask God to work on with you. So
we still pray with him, but not like we've been doing in the past in terms of riding to school, how we used to pray over him. But it's just reminding him to not lose sight of his faith, to remember where his help comes from.
Amen.
So I just think sometimes as teens, they get so busy in their little world, it's not a priority. But that is something that we continue to encourage and try to remind him to pour into.
Yep, Caden still uses his faith. He has a devotional. He reads his Bible every night. He'll help his friends sometimes if they're in situations, letting them know that they're not alone. Things that Caden will do. Well, he'll tell them what he does so that it helps in the situation that they're in. Or if something happens on the basketball court and they're like, well, that's not really what we should be doing, he will voice that. I mean, he definitely keeps that in the back of his pocket for sure and uses it to carry himself. So.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting you talk about the basketball. One of the things that Caleb did this year, as they are in the locker rooms getting ready to come out, they're playing different music. His tracks are gospel. Mm. One of the he too has a devotional that he uses, the journaling, the learning that God always answers prayers. Mm-hmm. Sometimes the answer is no.
Yep.
Just because you did not get what you wanted does not mean he did not answer. He did answer the answer. Yep. So like that.
It was in the right time. So
yeah, that development. Those of you who know me well know my child will ask me in a minute, Mom, will you bring your oil for me? So I encourage him, and I encourage you to encourage your children, if this fits how you worship, to devote that time on the court, on the stage, on the field, diamond. Ask God to receive it as an offering.
Yep.
And God, from that, you get what you need. And so that has been something we've said a lot this season, because he was a leading scorer last season, right? And this season, that has not been his testimony, but I'm like, every time you are out there, it is a platform for him, right? You get to show them, well, here's the praying boy, here's the Christian boy, and he's not excelling. How does he handle it?
Yeah. Yep.
We're just kind of teaching our kids that, sometimes projection is protection.
That's good.
That, like you said, although sometimes the door closing is sometimes keeping out the bad stuff that you didn't need. It's not always a bad thing. And most importantly, God's not a God of confusion. So we're here. This happened for a reason.
Yeah.
We just and what God has for you is for you.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
I feel like we're all so competitive. We're all in competitive sports. Like if God wanted this for you, there is nothing that anyone else out there can
except
do.
You. I want to delve a little bit into the culture and the culture of comparison, right? And some of the weight that happens, that brings. And even with social media, how that has intensified pressure on scholar athletes. Are your children or your scholar athletes wanting to pursue this beyond high school? Ours is.
Yep. Yeah.
And so when you look at how the recruiting process has been upended, right? Especially post-COVID, right? I mean, it morphed in COVID during a time that we didn't even have high school athletes. None of us did. Well, Veronica, you did a little. No, not necessarily a high school athlete during that time, And so it's the reels and the reach out, and you have to follow the right coaches and make sure the right coach is following you. And when there's a particular online agency here that when they ranked the teams, when I tell you that sent my kid into this abyss. The things that people say on social media so how has social media intensified the pressure for your scholar athlete?
I'll say for mine, the good thing is that I'd say good and bad, right? Sometimes I think he's not putting enough out there, and I don't know if it's because that's just he's not maybe comfortable, because there has been the encouragement of, put your clips out there, put your videos, show this, show that. And I know more than likely it's because of the followings of friends, the potential for critique from peers is probably why he doesn't show as much. But that's just, and we haven't taken it over. We know there are parents that, well, I'm gonna take over your social and I'm gonna do it for you. And of course there's a ton of, companies and people out there that's like, pay me and I'll do it. So there's a lot of options. But for him, he owns his own social. He has Twitter, he has Instagram. But what I can say that I appreciate about him is that he does, like, whenever his friends, get accepted to a school or, makes a good play or something positive about his friends, he's constantly showing that and, applauding others. So I appreciate that it's just not about him, that he also applaud others, but you also hear, well, you got to put yourself out there. And that's the part that really is an opportunity for improvement for him.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I can relate to that because we don't do our son's social. I don't want to. And even if I did, he tells me that I make old woman reels. And so he's like, I can be hurt my feelings. He's like, never mind. You know what I'm saying? And then like today when he learned that my first email address was with Prodigy and then I got AOL, he told me, he said, don't tell anybody else that. So
no, he's not wrong. He's not wrong.
Everybody that's liking and commenting isn't even real. How, have your children experienced some negative or positive from social media that you want to share?
Well, not only is some of it not real, there are people out there, parents, that will make false statements about their child and what they did or didn't do during a game. And when your child knows that individual, right, they're like, well, that's not really what happened. They're like, well, why are they lying? What's the point of lying on a social media about your child instead of putting out there what they actually did? So then if Caden reads that, right, well, one, I can't post anything about him because he doesn't want that out there. I'm like, okay, well, you have to post yourself, right? But he doesn't want people to make fun of him. He doesn't want people to point out what his mistakes were because everybody else's are professionals or someone put it together for them and only show the good shots. Right. So he's like, if I don't have that, I'm not good enough, right? So you have to teach him to say, not everything on social media is going to be legit, right? But you have to know that the game is yours and yours only. No one else is playing it for you. No one else is presenting it for you. And no one else will display what you can do unless you do it yourself.
Dance recruiting is miserable. So it's a mix of what you all go through from, like, I guess you've got traditional athletes, but then it's a little bit more secretive, but also very much on social media. And so we found that as parents, we have to pull back because I want to get in there and mix it up with the choreographers and like do the things. And
allegedly.
Oh no, I'm owning this one. Like I had messaged the lady.
Veronica, like, I'm trying. Will you help me? I'm trying.
No. Like if I seen her today, I'd still send a message. So it's challenging for the dancers on social media because you're measuring yourself, your performance, how many likes you've gotten, how many coaches are following you on that. And like, none of this stuff is real. Right. And it's like, you know what you've done. You know the quality of dancer that you are. You can't compare yourself against other people. You can't compare your like counts to other people.
No, and or your following count, right? I remember when he hit like some years ago, he hit 1,000 followers, and he was so excited, and he posted, I hit 1,000 followers, and then like 300 people stopped following. I mean, just because people are just mean, right?
Yes, they are.
What did you have to gain by that? Now he's back up, right? But he's learned. And so that's been good, is learning to protect, right? Everything isn't for everybody. You cannot give everybody access, especially to things that are endearing to you.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And so
your worth does not come from likes.
Your worth does not come from likes. And learning which platforms to IG, he has a couple of accounts, but the coaches for our sport, Bev, the coaches are on X.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Some of the social media buzz people, they're still IGing, which is fine because they want us to buy their reels and etc.
Right.
But the coaches are over there on X, and a lot of teenagers and stuff, unless you're really trying to get recruited in the basketball world, right? In the basketball world, you're not there. And in the basketball world, you don't see people saying negative, nasty things over on X because they don't want the coaches to see that they're saying negative, nasty things. This pursuit of excellence with our athletes, our scholar athletes. What does it cost the family?
All the things. It's the time, right? And the balance. Like if you have multiple kids, like I think most of us on this line do, you're going to spend more time with one than the other.
Yeah.
And
that's good.
Right. But and I think that's a challenge we're still working through. How do we balance that so one kid's not neglected? We all to the financial part of it. This stuff is not cheap. Right.
And that's why I'm asking the cost, because it's beyond it is not. It is not cheap. I mean, again, going back to when I tell Caleb, you know what, you're not getting us out the ghetto. As a matter of fact, us paying for this, we getting closer to the ghetto. Okay. I mean, dude, because every trainer that sees him, I can help this. And it's like, y'all, I have looked in the backyard and I don't see the money tree. You know?
I can tell you how many dollars we've wasted. On things that, they try and sell you on something and then it doesn't pan out. And I'm like, oh my goodness, we just dropped this and it is not doing that. So,
right.
I think honestly,
graduating senior, 529. It's like if I had put in even half of what I spent on dance into a 529,
ma'am.
Ma'am.
We could go to any school on any planet.
Anytime.
Okay.
Correct. 3 times it felt like it.
Well, I think the cost is also worth it when you see your child excel, right? Like we don't think about the cost. We went to an event last year in Dallas, which was like a combine for dancers. 380 dancers from all over, all 48 states came to this one event. I remember, Gabby was out there and they're all on the floor and they're doing their thing. And she's like over in the left corner. And so, but I'm thinking about it from a financial aspect. Get your A in the middle, in the front. And she's like, well, it's crowded over there.
X marks the spot.
Yeah. So she's like, well, it's crowded over there. Well, put your elbows up and turn around in a circle. And I said, you'll get some space.
Yeah.
So, but again, I think that's also teaching your kids how to advocate for them.
Exactly.
For themselves. Yes, there's been a cost to it, but I mean, I guess in the midst of that cost, there's also been lessons learned. From it. I think
so. The return on that investment it's been a yield for you.
Right.
Yes. And I would agree with that. And the return on the investment for ourselves, the way that we have been able to help other families. Like, hey, you know what? Here's a trainer that worked well for my athlete. And you know what? This trainer did not work well. I can't say don't go to them, right? Because everything isn't for everybody. But I look to how you said, Deshaun, it's beyond the money, right? Because with our athlete, with our scholar athlete, most days, Tuesday through Friday, his first workout is at 6, which means he leaves here at 5:45, 6 a.m., right? He does that.
Which means our day starts.
Which means our day has to start. Which means that if I haven't, if the laundry hadn't made it back to the room, then it's a flashlight in my bedroom. It's all the things, right? He comes home from that. And because of the block schedule, some days he goes straight on to school. Some days he goes to another workout. Mm-hmm. So before he even gets to school, he's had at least one, a lot of days, 2 workouts. Then he goes through his school day, right? In season, right? Then he has practice. And then after practice, right? He comes home, he'll scarf down some food and he has another workout. Right. And then we have homework. And you look at how that impacts, because there are days like as I block off several hours that I'm driving him around. Yeah. And yes, he is of age to drive. And yes, he even has his own car. But I know how fatigued I am. Mm-hmm. And I just don't want to risk him driving tired.
Right.
Right. I mean, Bev, there are times that up at the place, I literally, I take naps in my car. Mm-hmm. If he has to be at a training at 6 o'clock in the morning and it's only for an hour, I'm not driving 10 minutes back home. You know, I go to that back row.
Yep.
You know, I go to the back row.
Yep.
I go to sleep. I sleep in my,
Yep.
you know.
And you certainly.
And I will say that you have trained him well because I even try to pick him up and he wouldn't even get in the car with me. Okay.
He would not. He would not. He would not. He said he thought Mike was a kidnapper because Mike was like, I mean, why would a kidnapper text you though and say, "Where are you? I'm here to pick you up."
Right,
And,
right.
and Caleb was like, And so Mike texted us. He's like, he won't answer. And I'm like, Caleb, Uncle Mike is texting you. He's like, oh, not gonna lie, I thought it was a kidnapper. What kidnapper? What kidnapper texts
That
you?
is awesome.
And
hey, he was being cautious, Mom. He was being cautious.
I mean, but what kidnapper texts you and says, "Hey, where are you?"
So going back to
You're
that
right.
cost,
I don't know.
going back to that cost piece, it's not always financial because we have a soon to be 27-year-old in 21 days. And he's made some comments, and typically these are intellectual conversations with mom because they don't come to dad with intellectual conversations like this. But again, he talked about him growing up, his growing up and playing sports versus Caleb. And I thought it was interesting. And he's the biggest supporter of Caleb. So hear me when I say this. But just hearing him from time to time chat with mom and her get the story back to me on some of the things that he was kind of balancing to understand his place, right? You're grown, and we have another kid that we got to make sure we keep him on the right path, and just being able to know when to reach out to him as well and pour into him and not forget about him, although Caleb is at home. And I tell Jamie, I am so thankful that Caleb didn't want to go to boarding school. And Aaron had an opportunity to leave home in the 9th grade, right? Started boarding school in Chattanooga, Tennessee. That wasn't Caleb's story. And I'm glad because him being in the house and just being able to have conversations with him, it makes a difference versus picking up the phone and calling him. So having the multiple kids as you all do, it's also making sure that you pour into the other kids as well and being able to balance that. And I see the difference when we're all together. It's one big happy family. So a lot of yeah.
And it's not easy. I mean, Veronica, Bev, I know you have the one. Donaldson's, your babies are close in age. Veronica, yours are close with the 3. You know, our children are 9.5 years apart, but y'all, it's no different because when Aaron was, in sports and stuff, and that means we had to drive either 4 or 7 hours, depending on where we were going, right? And so you got a toddler, right, that's being dragged along. And like you're saying, Mike, making sure you're spending time, right? Am I watching enough Super Y? Am I doing enough? You know what I'm saying? Am I doing enough Dinosaur Train with this one while I'm over here, working on this? And so it is a delicate balance. It's a delicate balance. But with that, as we come to a close, and I thank you all for staying with us, what's something that you didn't know that you know now, or just what's something you would offer someone as it pertains to parenting a scholar athlete?
I'm happy to go first and just say the biggest thing that I've learned through it all is so much of any sport is the mental capacity and protecting your mental. We didn't realize when Caden got hurt last year, just because he doesn't talk a lot, how that, I think, affected him mentally. And so just really encouraging, making sure that they're doing the things that they need to do to protect their mental peace, because that is so much of, he's been getting advice from, players that have achieved where he wants to go, and just reminding him of the routine, reminding him of the things that he needs to do to just lock in mentally, and even some of the trainers that he's worked with helping him mentally. Yeah. So I think that's just the biggest thing, is that mental piece and protecting that and helping him to protect that.
I want to ask you a question. One of the things that we incorporated was actually sports psychologists. Has anybody else explored that? Yeah. Yeah, that was a big help. Also, like when we talk about all these teams, because a few of us, our children have outside trainers. This joke also has a masseuse.
Oh,
I know, girl. I know. See,
what?
and again, I say we closer to being okay. But like having them take it, like you're saying, Veronica, that's excellent. The whole body, right? Because it's not just training your body to be this machine that goes and performs. It's taking care of it. So
mind, body, and spirit.
yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
But I would piggyback on that, right? The mental health. So if we take into account this season, right? My son would rather play injured than fall behind on playing and getting put behind where he started at the beginning of the season, right? And that is mental, right? You're not taking care of your own self because you still want to be at the top, even though in order to get better, you need to be healed.
Yes.
So, and when he sat out for 3 weeks, he took it hard. He took it hard because then you have to do double the work in order to get back to where you were. Yeah. And he's still not, 100%, but so the mental health is 100%, I would say, the highest thing that I would tell anyone who's going into this season.
I would say to any other parent going down this road is none of this defines you. Like no matter what happens on the field or on the stage, you are still, a child of God. You are still a sister or a brother. Like you're still that scholar because that comes first. So all of this is important, but it's not the one thing.
Not the one thing. Mm-hmm. That's good. I would offer, and it doesn't define us as parents. If you don't have the resources, right, to get the extra training, it's not because you don't love your child. If you have the resources and choose not to use them that way, it's not because you don't love your child. If but it does not define and his or her success, status, or opportunities don't define us, right? We are equally spectators as everybody sitting in the courts. Number one, fans, but spectators. But I would encourage parents to give time off. So when you can, between season, right? I mean, basketball is brutal because the only month that there's not something happening is August. I mean, that's, because you got fall ball, school ball, AAU, June, July, it doesn't stop. But there are snippets in there where we'll snatch a week and I'll say, okay, you know what, this week, no training this week. Just sleep in. I mean, it's sad that sleeping in is sleeping until 8, but just sleep in. And making sure that they have some interest and engagement outside of their sport. So
I would say, I would add just a nugget for parents of scholar athletes: have fun, because if you're miserable, that projects on them. So as parents, we have to be mentally, we have to be spiritually healthy to help them. Because times will come that we have to help them navigate that space. And if we're not in a good space, we can't help them.
That's good. Right. That's good. Well, thank you, everybody, for joining. And thank you all for whoever is listening out there. We're so grateful for you joining us and learning a little bit about our journey. We hope that we said something that made you chuckle, made you think, and eventually will help you grow. Be well.